Welcome back to the final leg of our Rostermania Tour. Oh, we've had a ride so far, but we're on the home stretch. Just the semi-closed leagues to go, and we're home free. Now for the remaining leagues, I'm going to do something a little bit different. As all of these leagues are semi-closed, aka at least half of the teams from a specific stage come up through open qualifiers, it's a little bit trickier to keep track of every roster move that comes through these regions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the more prominent and established orgs and teams, as well as other bits of roster shuffling that will be prevalent. And so, with that little bit of housekeeping out of the way, let us begin with Asia and Bleed. Bleed's departures have been known for some time, but it still sucks to see Asfi departing the team to complete his 2-year mandatory military service. Let's hope he comes back safely and is able to continue his pro career. Bruce's departure was a bit of a surprise, but as discussed earlier, he's already found his home in Japan, so I've no doubt we'll see him again. Bleed's new pickups are rather interesting, however, but in a good way. GK Superstar from Atlanta finds himself a new permanent home in the Bleed roster, as well as Lender from E1 as their new analyst. We've already seen what Leader can do when he's thrown into a team last minute, so imagine what he can do when the man has time to prepare with a new team. I think Bleed's ceiling just shot up. The Direwolves, however, I feel like are beginning to go backwards. Ever since they bombed out of SI 2023, these boys have had nothing to show for that hard work getting to Montreal that year. No domestic tournament wins, no land appearances, and they've become a revolving door of players and staff to find their missing puzzle pieces. And they're at it again. Joe Gore departs the team altogether, Harame steps into the starting roster, Bebin comes in to replace Felox, who's been benched for Stage 2, and Juicy is pulled out of retirement as their new coach. I have a lot of questions, and I feel like we're not going to like the answers. Skipping over to LATAM, this region is in serious need of a team to carry the torch for them and give the other teams in the region some hope. Could we get that team this stage? Perhaps. Starting with the most recent team to make their international debut in Manchester, Team Cruelty made a couple of moves this trade period, with Toski retiring from competitive Siege and Rovi leaving the team altogether. Dante coming in from Vasco Esports and Fedor coming back to Cruelty from Cinta Negra Esports to take their places feels like solid choices. Dante is a very good entry fragger, which I think is something that is really missing from Cruelty's arsenal. So to have him come in to help bolster their fragging prowess feels like the right call. As for Fatal, I'm not entirely sure. It could just be a case of the stars aligning perfectly, and he comes back at the right time with the right kind of form. And the other piece of significant news to come out of LATAM North is that Ravani Club have disbanded, we think? They dropped their entire team during the trade period, and there is no word at the time of recording what their new roster looks like. Or if they even have a new roster. I have no idea what's going on with this org, and I'm starting to wonder if they do as well. This is a genuine head-scratcher, and their place in LATAM North is in jeopardy. Making the journey to my home region of Oceania, there is a lot that happened. Orgs leaving the scene, old favorites returning, brand new ones joining the scene. It was a lot. But the biggest piece of news to come out of this one is that Team Bliss has departed the scene, leaving their former team without a home. Until last week, when it was announced that Gaming Gladiators are returning to the scene, and they picked up most of the ex-Bliss team, including support staff. However, Oda has departed the team after being benched before Stage 2, which is going to be a bit jarring to get used to if you're a recent fan of Bliss. Tuhan from the old Antic Esports team has stepped up to take his place, and I think he's going to do just fine with his new team, even if it does take some getting used to. As for Oda, don't worry, he's found himself a new home for Stage 2. In the Chiefs. Yeah, they're also back. Picking up the Ludovica team after Oceanic rivals, this new look Chiefs consists of Oda, Tex, Kara, Player, and Quiz, with Nate as their new coach and Jigsaw as the new sub. Yeah, that's right. The man's coming home after a rough stint in Europe. I think this team has the makings to give the Gladiators a run for their money this stage, and I reckon they're not the only ones. Keep your eyes on Oceania this stage. This is going to get fun. And the last region to speak on is MENA. And while there is only the one team to talk about, there is going to be a bit to unpack. GK Esports continue their trend of being a revolving door of local and import talent that doesn't seem to stick around for too long. The latest departures from this org are Hellraiser, Uno, Blaz, who just got drafted into G2 as we know, and Nesket. Their replacements are Frenchie from ENT, Skipper from the ITB Academy team, as well as their former coach Safe as the new analyst, Draz as the new coach, and Muraz as his number 2. I understand the need to find the right players for a team to succeed, but when you only give them 5 or 6 months to make it work before moving them on, it doesn't really allow for any sort of cohesion within the team. I can't help but feel like eventually players and stuff won't want to go to GK if they're only going to be there for less than 6 months. Something needs to change with this org if they want to increase player retention. And that's not going to happen this stage. I can feel it. And that is it. The end of the Rostermania World Tour is here. If you somehow made it to the end of this Rostermania series, thank you so very much for sticking with it. Your viewership is oh so greatly appreciated for someone like me who's just starting out. I'm going to try and be a little bit more consistent with my content moving forward. I was actually struggling for months to decide what to do next after Manchester, and I unintentionally ended up neglecting this channel as a result until now. I hope you join me for my next set of videos, hopefully in the near future. If not, I will see you all in Montreal. Until then, this is your resident Silver Wolf, signing out.